Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast presented by Zwift. Benji's been racing on Zwift today. I've just been cruising on Zwift, but we're still both amped up. We're nothing if not flexible. We will do Tirreno-Adriatico first today because Paris-Nice was a bit of a snoozer, and Tirreno, yeah, a bit of a snoozer, understatement. And Tirreno was a brilliant stage. We've got a lot of the best punchers in the world here, minus Godou and Pogacar in Paris-Nice. But we've got Roglic, Van Aert, Pidcock, Van der Poel on this a World Championships course, Benji. 217 Ks from Greccio to Tortoreto. I go along the beach. They do 4 reps of the Tortoreto climb. The last 3 are 3.2 Ks at 7%. But there's a 500-meter section with about 1,200 meters to go at 10%. Then it levels off a bit. And it's almost flat at the finish. This was a really good stage design, and it's no surprise that we see guys tuning up for San Remo here at Tirreno instead of in the cold, in the crosswinds at Paris-Nice.
Yes, I would say that. And it's also that copy-paste from that Belante stage from last year, where we saw Alaphilippe attack early and then Remco Evenepoel take on the last climb for that team. And in this stage, the first action for GC after the break was caught and so forth. Gotta be honest, completely forgot who was in the breakaway, but
Yolo
I'm gonna guess and say random Italian pro teams.
Korotec and Yolo, for sure.
Hold it. Anyway, once again, Quick Step launching on the third last climb, and I was like,
well, before then, though,
why?
Were you surprised? In to do with your point, were you surprised to see huge sprint lead outs into the first climb, and then the second climb, Alaphilippe's going after Dries Stevenijns has been pacing super hard. Like, Jumbo weren't pacing into the base of the first climb, and I was like, it's 50 Ks to go.
Yeah.
Like, it's a 5% climb, the first one, and then the second one, there's 36 Ks to go. You're going to burn your whole team, and no one's going to work. Like, who's going to work with Alaphilippe, really, afterwards either?
No one. No one would work with Alaphilippe, and definitely not because if someone comes to Alaphilippe, it's likely going to be isolated riders without domestiques there. So
Yates won't.
Agreed. For not. It depends on whether he's got the other guys from Jumbo there and so forth. But anyway, let's get to that third last climb. Quick Step lines it up. They're on the climb. One by one, their riders drop. And Alaphilippe launches it. And it's the exact same attack we saw last year on the Belante climb, the early Belante climb, where you're like, if Alaphilippe keeps his energy for this last climb, he's got a chance of winning the stage. So I never understood why Alaphilippe or Quickstep made this decision. Is it making the race hard? But if people are dropping there already, like a Biniam was dropping and Alaphilippe was dropping, then they're not an Alaphilippe, a Biniam and a Van der Poel, I mean, those two are going to drop again on the next 2 climbs then. Let's be honest about it. But Alaphilippe made that move, and there were some responses that were meaningful. Simmons tried to follow, but the entire race, it looks like Simmons is working for Ciccone right here.
I think so. Unfortunately, frequent Simmons, that movement continues. But yeah, I mean, actually, it is rational for him to work for Ciccone, unfortunately. But don't tell Trek that, because Ciccone won on a 7% finish in Valenciana. But yeah, Wout jumped following Yates. Yates always has been good in Italian circuit. I mean, behind Roglic on Superga in Milano. What's that fucking race called, Benji?
Torino.
Milano Torino. When it does, well, they keep changing the parkour. It's a flat one this year. So that's why I drew a mental blank. Great in Lombardia, great in Montreal. He's always in big ring. His upper body's not moving. Wow, look good though. And I was like, Wow, contesting the sprint yesterday, I was like, what does that really mean? He can do that even if he's at 80%. But following Yates and Alaphilippe attacking here, I was like, okay, he's looking a bit sharper. And we had Gaps Benji and Ineos, who had taken control. Remember, we had Kwiatkowski pacing a lot for this stage, and when Honor attacked, Ineos were all over the place. I couldn't see Pidcock. Chef in the white jersey gone. Ganna was actually the best placed
one
of them.
Yeah. He was like in third position for most of that climb, which is crazy. Obviously, he wasn't the first one to respond to the move of Alaphilippe, nor should he. He should try and follow other people and benefit from others. That will bring him back eventually, because the rest of the groups returned over the top, and let's be honest, just over the top. And because the group became larger, Van Aert came to the front because a few Jumbo riders were in there, but he never really pushed really hard into the descent.
No, I didn't pedal.
And then I saw the man, the myth, the legend, the Portuguese rocket fly down in the descent past a stalling peloton. And I was like, this is now a demon descender after his descending issues last year. Joao Almeida is back, boy.
Savoldelli. He's the new one. Like, he was, flying. It was a straight line. We will clarify it was a straight line.
The peloton was breaking, but...
Yeah. I actually think the Volta is a very good descender, I think.
Yeah.
And a
mountain
good bike
handler.
handler.
Yeah.
Allegedly. I keep forgetting he did mountain biking. Jumbo were happy to keep riders together. Roglic seemed to slip back. He wasn't responding. Wout was responding initially on this climb. I didn't know who they were going to go for in the finish. Roglic with his unshaved legs, or Wout, who's supposedly not in good shape. Group just swells. Pardon?
Wilco.
I know. I mean, this is a Dutch team with a Dutch rider, Wilco Kelderman, in great shape, and they're not letting Wilco go. Well, no, Wilco was allowed to go for the stage, but anyway, we'll get to that. I've got a big soft spot for Wilco. I know Luke, our producer, wanted them to go for Wilco. Anyway, group just swells. FDJ take it up on the next climb with Pacher. I think Lagac may be pacing. Kirby said Gak attack, but it might have been Pacher afterwards as well. Pacher's pace was very hard. He had it strung out. We saw Volta with Van Aert. I couldn't really see Roglic's slip back in the group. Benoit and Van Baarle were sort of gone at this point. We had, of course, Victor Lafay always in good position for Cofidis. Not so young, talented French rider on Cofidis. He was very, very good. Yates in good position. So UAE had McNulty and Ben and co looking and Almeida just always a little bit deeper. Yates looked sharp. Ineos though, Benji, Aronsman just struggling. And Pidcock Pidcock fully drops here on the FDJ pacing, right?
Yes, exactly. Pidcock off the back. He didn't look like he was completely dead. I believe that Pidcock probably isn't taking this Tirreno overly serious, but then again, this morning he said that he was going to go for the stage. So I still think he probably just felt, I'm not going to be able to do anything here. Van der Poel was already off the back once again. Binyam already off the back once again, so they could make a bit of a companionship behind and try and get back to the front after this climb, if possible. But I do want to talk about what happens in the front group a bit more, because we don't get that all-out attack on this second last climb. It's more that people are just pacing. It's become a bit harder. And we even see Simmons pacing for Ciccone while Pacher was done working for Madua. So it was clear then that Simmons was not going to win the stage, unlike what I predicted yesterday. I could have actually realized that yesterday, that Ciccone would have been the leader. He should have won. Nah. Yeah. He couldn't even close Alaphilippe in the first place.
Alaphilippe spent as a big attack.
But hey,
I agree. Were you not? I was surprised. Even on the descent, maybe Jumbo were marshalling things, and there wasn't an opportunity, and Jumbo had numbers with Benoit coming back, and Kelderman and Roglic and Van Aert there, and Ineos kind of weren't there to play numbers. But yeah, I expected moves to go at least on the descent to try and get ahead, because you don't really, unless you're maybe a very short list of 5 or 6 riders, you don't want to go to this finish with Roglic or Van Aert. And of course, I'm not putting someone like Enric Mas in that category. He is riding to defend GC and do his best, but those in between, even Cofidis, Benji, sending a rider ahead to at least make Jumbo not set up their train, which they did.
Exactly. And the question there is, Attila Valter was one of the riders that did most of the work on the flat for Jumbo-Visma, next to Koen Bouwman as well in this race. Were you surprised that Valter was used on the flat as much?
I would have put Benoit to pace on the flat, because Valter looked much, much stronger to me on the penultimate climb. And Valter just looked good. He looked sharp with Van Aert, and Benoit was slipping a little bit. Wilco's obviously riding for his own GC as well. He's not, him and Roglic kind of riding for their own GC, which I think is a good idea, with Roglic not maybe on top shape ahead of the mountaintop finish. But yeah, before we get to the final climb, where we do have most of the riders, Benji, you've been racing again. You're on what, like a 3-day streak of Zwift racing
I'm on a
against what's your
3-day streak.
TSS?
I'm on a 3-day streak, and the app that I'm using keeps telling me that I need to do recovery rides from this point onwards, but I'm going to keep ignoring it. I'm going to keep ignoring it. Zwift races every day until I die. No, probably not that long, but until I feel like my legs can't handle it anymore. But yeah, it started off really badly. I said it yesterday on yesterday's podcast that I was lost on my first stage. Then I got better for the second stage, and I've actually got a good result on my third stage. I also broke records, as in I broke my 30-minute power and my 20-minute power during these races. So it's really interesting because then you do like an all-out FTP test on Zwift and you give everything in it. And then you get like a certain number FTP, but then you go into a race format and you feel like you could have like gone a bit faster at certain parts in the race because you were like keeping some energy back for when the other group caught up and so forth. But then you still break your 20-minute record and so forth because the competition kind of gives you adrenaline to try and catch every rider that goes and so forth. So anyway, I've been having fun, and hopefully by the end of this decade, I can win a race.
So what you're saying is Zwift needs to insert a Mark Matteo audio feature into the FTP test, which you can do.
Or Vamos.
So yeah, Chente or Mark Matteo, you can choose. I don't know who would be the Anglophone version of those guys. Because Grisha's not native Anglophone. The German DSC Jumbo, but he'd probably be like, "Good job, Benji." He'd be too quiet. I'm trying to think. Maybe we'll have someone say who's the craziest Anglophone. Probably me. I'm the craziest Anglophone that could shout at you on Zwift. Maybe I'll insert that feature. That'd be cool. Anyway, cool to see you racing on it. I just cruised this morning, just burning some cows, had a good time on Watopia. Anyway, back to Tirreno-Adriatico. We had Pidcock moving up. He started riding as a domestique or like pulling to position Timon Aaronsman and Ganna in the group. We had Jumbo Visma with their whole team back together to the left-hand side of Ineos in the flat run-in. And we basically see this is Bowman pulls off. Well, yeah. I think Bowman made a little bit of a mistake here. The trains of, I can't remember the team on the left, they swamp him a little bit. And Volta's trying to move up to get past Bowman. And then Ineos is on the right-hand side. And Bowman kind of didn't slide back, I would say, gracefully or clearly. Like he was still trying to get the draft a little bit. Rather than when a sprint lead out, they just pull up stumps and they just go. He was still kind of taking a position.
Yeah.
And then Volta moves past him. Wout van Aert goes to move past Bowman, who's on his left-hand side, and Pidcock's also sliding back a little bit because he's finished his lead out, and Wout shoots the gap, tries to counterbalance against Pidcock, I think hooks Pidcock's bars, or they hook bars or something, and they go down, slide out, which was really sucks to see ahead of Milano Sanremo, and also they've been preparing, all of winter for the Spring Classics, so you're hoping nothing's gone too badly wrong. Thankfully, they both bounce up. Van Aert goes over to say sorry to Pidcock, and Pidcock doesn't seem too perturbed, and I think they're both okay, Benji, just skin off and bruises. But it's just
we know that for certain? Because on the final climb, they were still riding together, and Pidcock dropped Van Aert on the final climb. He did. Ooh, is it mental psychology warfare?
You always got to do that, yeah, I think. I don't know. It's a racing incident, but also I think it's sometimes weird in these, like, it's a sprint lead out setup, but it's not a sprint lead out because it's like climby boys going for like into a climb, and then I think shoots a gap that was a little bit too small, and unfortunately, and then Pidcock was also moving over. It sucks. I don't want to be like, super dangerous from X rider on this incident.
I feel like I've got a slightly different interpretation of what happened than you do. As in, when Pidcock was moving back, he was already behind Van Aert in my head. Like right on the right behind Van Aert when it happened. And it's like the Jumbo rider on the left of Van Aert
Bowman
seems to have gone to the right.
Yeah.
As a consequence of something happening there. And that's why Van Aert got squeezed between Pidcock and that random Jumbo rider. So I don't know. I'm not blaming anyone. I don't know what happened to the other Jumbo rider. I completely forgot about it. But I think that's the reason that it happened. And it looked like Van Aert could have held it up at some point.
I thought he was going to hold it up.
It looked like
I
that.
thought he was going to, yeah,
he
but
was
then he
gone.
slides out. Anyway, no one else seemed to go down, thankfully, and hopefully both seem to be okay, and they'll be unaffected for the races to come. Anyway, the big question now was, what the hell are Jumbo-Visma going to do? Like, they've had Wout go down, who was going to be their big chance for the stage, and I actually didn't know. I was like, because if Roglic's form is as bad as he says it's been or whatever, then, you know, they've worked all this stage for nothing, and Volta's been pulling and not been able to go up with moves. Anyway, they get to the base of the climb. A rider who attacked Benji.
First of all, we had like Movistar pacing for a bit into the climb, it seemed like, and then we saw an attack by Vermeers when the footage was not on the front because for some reason it kept showing the back of the peloton and Van Aert and Pidcock and so forth while this was all happening. But Movistar pacing, Vermeers attacking from behind him. And this is the first time we see Attila Valter also doing something on this specific climb, countering that attack, not taking over. So basically, the move that he's just sitting on everybody that attacks while another Jumbo rider is closing it down. Vlasov also responded to that same move. Binyam tried to bridge, but in the end, the Jumbo rider that was closing down that move was Primoz Roglic, and I was really surprised by that.
I wasn't surprised if you watched the Poggio in Milano Sanremo last year, unfortunately. But maybe because Valter's in the national champs jersey, he didn't realize he was on his team. I would like to see, because the way this stage played out, we will not have the same level of discourse about. You remember last week at Strade when Valter didn't bring anyone back with him.
Yep.
In this case, Roglic literally did bring people back, and he should be sitting in the wheels and letting others close Valter because Valter looks really, really strong, and that's a good position. Because
Vlasov is in that group?
No, Valter was virtually dropping Vlasov off the wheel.
Yeah,
Vlasov was like, "Fuck, I'm spending too much here too early." And like, and this is early in the climb. There's enough time for Valter to finesse later. So Valter looking really good. Eventually that gets brought back. And then Valter just goes to the front and starts pacing after Lefay counterattacks. Yeah. Were you surprised to see Lefay? Because this ain't Arctic Race of Norway. Like, you're not just going to get away on a climb like this, 3K, 7%. I don't know. It's kind of like the Alaphilippe move. He's spending his bickies a little bit too early. And although maybe he gets away if Valter's done, and then all the other favourites look at each other. Who else was going to bring it back, Benji? Because Ineos was thin on the ground. UAE are not going to designate a leader. So if Valter goes, you're really up to like an Oliveira at a pace.
Yep, exactly. And it's quite intriguing because a Lafay attack at this point, I find it a good move because I don't believe that Lafay maybe in his head has the idea that he can beat the likes of whoever's sprinting at the end of this stage. I don't think Lafay believes that in his head that he can do that. So the next best thing is attacking early and hoping that no one paces. But Valter's been closing down everything that happens, so they clearly have a plan to keep on doing that. But Lafay doesn't know how strong Valter is. And as you say, if Valter's gone, who's going to take over? Is there going to be another Jumbo rider? Will Kelderman ride for Roglic or Roglic for Kelderman? We don't know that. I doubt it. They're going to look at each other. So it would be to other teams like you mentioned. But Valter keeps on pacing, keeps on pacing, catches Lafay in the process. Fortunato attacks. That's the next one. Hausen closing that down. Following that, we've got two guys for a bit. Looks like Hausen was the strongest of the two. This is one of the first time I actually noticed Hausen in a race outside of the Down Under.
You didn't watch Herald Sun Tour 2020?
No.
Mate, Jay Vine, Jai Hindley, Seb Berwick, unreal. Like, the scouting in that race, unbelievable. He got to attack and Valter was strong again. I mean, Valter was, shutting it down. Then we were thinking, okay, Roglic sprint, right? I expected what happened to happen, though, because when Hausen was brought back, Kelderman did this in Budapest last year or in Hungary in the Giro. He attacked with about 1K to go on that finish where Ewan crashed and Van der Poel beat Binny, which is a little bit easier than this, but Kelderman goes with 1K to go. Mars closes it. Hugh Carthy's back, Benji. He is back.
Yes.
Huge is on. He attacked. He was there in the top 5 when Van Aert and Alaphilippe went, I think, on the third last. And then a strong attack. He's not winning the sprint. Gegenhardt kind of ruins his race here, I think.
He probably does by responding to Carthy that late because we're not talking about 3K to go. it's with 1.1-ish Ks to go. It's in last kilometer. It's with 700 meters to go that this is happening. So he's closing it down for other people, basically. And then you ask yourself, is he doing it for himself? Or is there an Ineos rider still in the group? And no, because Arensman is dropping at the moment. Arensman is being dropped at this very moment. Sheffield is probably back in Narnia, like you would say. Yeah. So it was all up to him, unless they are protecting Ganna's GC, but he was dropped as well. So Gegenhardt was spending his own energy for himself there and tried to benefit from that. And I do believe this is kind of in the same way that Mohoric blew his energy chasing Van Hooijdonk attack in Kuurne-Brussel-Kuurne. But then again, who else was going to close it? If he doesn't do it, someone else might have. Yeah, you don't know that. There's more people here to close it than there was in Kuurne-Brussel-Kuurne in that situation, though.
I think someone else closes it. And
I think so as well.
I think he spent his race here and he could have won this stage. Gegenhardt won in Valenciana in a hard uphill finish. He's actually very, very good at these. He nearly won in Dauphiné. I've mentioned a few times when Valverde won the stage in 2021, stage 6 maybe. He is really good at these finishes. But yeah, he's in the wind because Hugh was so strong. He's in the wind for a long time. Roglic is in the wheel. Kelderman's in the wheel. And then Roglic goes early. And this is a slight difference to what I've normally seen before. He attacks it's like 9-10% here, and he goes, and I thought Benji, he's gone way too early. He's got Alaphilippe in the wheel. He's got Lefay in the wheel. What's his name? Mars, Almeida, Vlasov, Yates, I've already said, probably Ricardo, Simon Felipe's in Paris-Nice. I thought he was going to keep going the whole time, and he was in, I'm Primoz Roglic, I'm going to burn everyone off my wheel, and there's nothing they can do about it.
There's 2 scenarios that can happen here, eh? 3 scenarios. Either he goes all out from that point, either he goes all out and completely bonks. Boink
is sounding a little bit different.
I have no clue what that word means, by the way, so don't take it out of context.
In England now.
Oh, God. Anyway, and the other scenario is that fish from Star Wars saying, it's a trap for everybody else, because Roglic is doing a first attack. Everybody gets triggered by it to try and go over him, and then he goes again from their wheel.
I think, and it was a good understanding of the parkour, because as it levels off and he stops pulling, and I thought, because we've also seen the same thing, Benji, in the Tour de France last year when he crashed and when he let out Pogacar, he did like a meme attack and led Pogacar out and then got destroyed. I was like, we don't know his shape. The same thing might happen here. It doesn't. And he baits everyone completely. They then lead him out. Lefay, he slots into about third wheel ahead of Alaphilippe, who's still a danger in this stage. And then he kicks again in the finish with his he just dropped Alaphilippe straight off the wheel, frankly, and wins the stage comfortably. It was probably some of the best decision-making I've seen from Roglic in the last kilometer of a stage, the way he played this. Maybe earlier in the climb there were some mistakes made. Wilco very, very strong, but the actual results, Alaphilippe second, Adam Yates third, Wilco fourth, Gegenhardt fifth, Mas sixth, Lefay seventh, Almeida eighth, Vlasov ninth, Carthy 10th. I thought Hindley, I don't know, Hindley actually I was thinking might do well in this stage. Benoit finishes with that group, though, Benji. So is he?
So does Aramburu. Sorry.
Did he?
He did.
He's on Movistar.
He probably pays from Mars, which is probably a good thing.
The thing is, though, you know who wins this sprint if he was here and probably takes time? Pogacar.
Yeah, 100%, like last year in Belanten.
Yeah. But what we do know for certain is Roglic ain't in no shape. He still toweled everyone here, Benji, and he pulled back the Volta group. He's still in very, very good shape, and he's got to be taken seriously for GC now.
For certain. Perfect work by Valtteri in closing down every attack and sitting on attacks that happen and so forth. But in the end, Roglic was strong enough to deliver this. And it looked relatively easy how he beat the others who came second and third at the end. It's not with a gap like crazy, but it looked with relative ease. That being said, Alaphilippe second. Could he have won if he didn't do that attack early on 2 climbs ago? Maybe not. But it still makes you wonder how close he could have gotten, right?
It does. And also, what if they don't spend their team that way, Quick Step?
Yeah.
What if they let Ineos control the race? Jumbo weren't looking like they wanted to open this race up. They were going to do a sprint lead out for Wout van Aert. Now, maybe, sliding doors moment, then Wout doesn't crash, whatever, he still wins. Okay. The point is, as Benji's saying, what if they had Dries Stevenijn's fresher to do that lead out and keep Alaphilippe in good position? And he's got fresher legs? Then it's a little bit different. I will say, Ineos, I think, quite disappointing today. Arensman shouldn't be losing that quantity of time on a finish like this.
But always.
I know, that's what's like, it's a lot of time, you know what I mean? He's not just, it's a lot of time. What was it?
Bologna? Last year?
40 seconds, Benji.
Yeah.
40 seconds.
39 seconds or 40 seconds, whatever. It's enough time to lose, eh? Let's be honest about it. It's quite a lot of time on a climb like this. And it's a habit for Arensman to lose on these kind of finishes. Because if I recall correctly, if we look at 2022 in Bologna, for example, the stage where he lost time was the uphill finish. That was also similar in that it was a punchy finish like today. Now, I also recall that in the Vuelta, he lost time on a similar finish. So we're looking at a pattern here when it comes to Tijmen Arensman, that in like the longer mountain stages, a diesel formation that he has less trouble. But when it comes to like the shorter finishes that you would say, Muur de Bretagne, he would lose time.
Yep. And some guys are like that. They just, I don't know. Often I thought like Hindley would struggle on them, or Carthy actually previously. Yep. Like Carthy would really struggle on these finishes too. I think Benoit's going for GC here, Benji.
Benoit is going? Nah.
I think he's going for GC. He stayed with the group. He didn't do any pulls. He's currently 16th on GC, 41 seconds behind Leonard Kamna, who's still in the GC lead. Goat, shout out Leonard. I think Benoit is going to ride for GC here.
He shouldn't, in my opinion. Roglic is up there. Kelderman is up there. Are they going to bet on 3 horses now? Sorry, but at that point, you might as well have Attila Valter going for GC as well next to them.
Should've.
Where did Valter finish? Probably pretty far.
He parked the bus. I
don't want to talk about it. McNulty, he also parked the bus a tiny bit, 12 seconds behind, which means
he's
that...
one like Arensman. It's like, and this is why being a GC rider is so hard. Like, you cannot have an off day. You cannot, even on a race stage like this where you shouldn't be losing a lot of time, it's where like Enric Mas, okay, he's not going to win the stage, but he damn sure makes sure he's up there, not losing time, lives to fight another day.
And the thing with McNulty is, it actually matters that he loses time, because the free-for-all is still happening. The Hunger Games at UAE is still on. And it's a switch in the tables now, because Almeida is now the king in the classification. 8 seconds behind, while McNulty is on 13 seconds. And who else is here? Adam Yates is here as well, right? Where is he these days? He's on 41 seconds. So, Almeida, it's coming.
You think?
Yeah.
Long climb. Yeah.
Well, he's going to drop first and then come back.
Yeah. He'll be back there. It's better. The longer the better, because then he has time to come back. Do you think, I don't know, Valter's almost looking too good not to take to the Giro as a domestique at the moment. But then he's also, Jumbo, what else are they going to send to the Ardennes if he doesn't do the Ardennes, where he's looking good enough to be a genuine threat? Anyway, that's enough on Jumbo Visma. Tomorrow's stage is not?
They've got armpit sponsors on the podium.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Roglic was putting his hands in the air and there were armpit sponsors. So they sold a sponsor because they're winning so much that they could sell an armpit sponsor.
Let me check this out.
I'm not joking. That is actually the case. Jumbo Visma has armpit sponsors on the podium.
I'm just seeing it now. This is mad. Look, that is mad.
Such a flex.
Don't know how I feel about that, actually.
Is it only on the podium? Probably. What? Unless, well, Benoit
let me
in
look at the post up.
That's why Benoit was complaining about Valter in Strade. To show the armpit sponsor.
Is it? I'm trying to look. There's not a good angle of Roglic post up when he finished. I can't see it. Might not be there. So yeah, maybe it's a special podium jersey. I mean, that's mad. Anyway, armpit sponsor always going on. Tomorrow's stage, the big mountaintop finish up Sassoteto on a Friday, which is like quite surprising to me that they didn't want to have this on the weekend. 168 kilometers. It's a hard stage, Benji. This is up and down all day. They're going to spend a lot of calories before this finish. 13K, 7.3%. Let me look. It's pretty hard. It's got 2Ks at 9.5%, then a 7% K, then another 9% K. It's not an easy climb, actually. It's harder than it's not fake news. It's not fake news, but it's pretty difficult. I think Adam Ricciardo is going to be on, and I think Adam Ricciardo launches with 7Ks done with about 6Ks to go on this.
I think so as well. I think Ricciardo will go pretty early on this stage, and I think he wins the stage UAE style. Am I underrating the other competition? Mas. Enrico Mas. Enrico against Enrique. I was talking Dutch here for a second.
Enrico tiene muy bien piernas. I thought you were saying he has really good legs in Spanish. That's Spanish, by the way, Benji.
I was talking Dutch. Against
no, I understood that, of course, yeah.
So, we've got Ricciardo against Enrique.
I think Mas in good shape. Huge is going to go. I think Huge is going to look strong, but cost himself. Hugh Carthy, I think, is in very, very good shape, and the longer climb suits him. It's going to be a good battle. We've got, as you said, Benji, the troop of UAE guys, Almeida, and to be honest, Ricciardo and Almeida is a really nice pairing with the attacker, and then Almeida should sit in the guys' wheels behind chasing Yates. We've got Mas, as you said, Landa, we all believe.
No.
Except for Benji. Nah. Where's Canada finishing on this?
7th on 1 minute and 17 seconds.
Wow, you're expecting big gaps then.
Yeah,
it is a hard stage before. How did Bora play Kemna, Hindley, and Vlasov? I think what you do is you have Hindley or Vlasov go with Yates if they can, refuse to relay because you've got Leonard behind. That's the strat, right?
Yeah, I think so as well. Is it weird that I trust Kemna more on this climb than I do Vlasov? Probably.
It depends. If Leonard has the talent, and we all know Leonard is so good. It's just whether he's going to go for GC full gas because he's in the leader's jersey. I think it's going to be a really interesting finish. I will be keen to see. Nolan's going to want to go to the finish with Roglic after the sprint today, but I want to see how his long climbing is. I think this Adam Yates with the better preparation might be a little bit sharper, but that's one to watch tomorrow in Tirreno. Any last thoughts on this stage, Benji?
Not really. It was a good stage, but I feel like stage 6 is going to be the best one of this Tirreno. I'm looking forward to it. Castelfidardo 2.0 is coming. Even without rain, somebody's going to go early on those climbs. They have to. So,
McNulty.
It's happening on Saturday.
McNulty going to go early, I think. Anyway, that was Tirreno. It was the best of the two to watch. I'd really encourage everyone to maybe watch the last climb. Was super interesting.